Hello everyone. So I'm here to do my daily sharing, and I was thinking that it would be a nice thing to talk about Scorpio since the sun is now in Scorpio. And also I would love to pick a Carolyn Mace card, an archetype card that could be a point of focus for us individually and collectively as we navigate Scorpio season. As I've talked about before, if you've been following me, we have a full moon eclipse in Taurus. I believe it's at like 27 degrees of Taurus. That's on November 19th. And we can probably already start feeling this this eclipse that's coming. Typically with eclipses, they can be kind of creating circumstances in our lives. Even, a lot of people say 6 months before, but definitely, I would say even, at least 3 months before. So we could have things coming up in our lives that are helping us to be prepping for this full moon eclipse coming in Taurus. And especially with the sun now moving into Scorpio, I think that we could be really noticing the things that we may be wanting to let go at that full moon eclipse. So if you don't already know, Scorpio is very much about what's in the unconscious. It is the way in which we access our soul, right? So Pluto and Scorpio are representative of soul and evolution of the soul, right? It's about how we access our own true empowerment. And interestingly, one of the many ways of accessing our true empowerment is really looking at what's hidden in the unconscious and looking at our fears, our primal instincts, our pain, repressions, things that we've repressed. That could be, repressed desires, repressed pain, right? Our vulnerabilities, our sexuality, our connection to our own body, and it's through navigating all of those things and really feeling them that we actually find our hidden treasure, which is our own power. So it's really looking at where it is that we hold back our own empowerment by not looking at the pain, the fears, the primal instincts, repressed desires, wounds, fears. Did I say fears? Because a lot of it has to do with fears. So I'm gonna pull a card for us. If you don't already know, this is the book that comes with these cards. And so it's really exploring the archetypes, right? And I think that this can be really helpful for really, navigating some of the transits. I really love picking cards to focus on that kind of can guide us about our own archetypal energies that move through us and through the signs, right? So by the way, Scorpio is very much about our inner witch. And I love that because, everyone has an inner witch. And what does a witch do? But she transmutes things. And Scorpio is very much about turning lead into gold and really transmuting our fears into funneling our power into what we value. So I really wanted to bring that up as well. I'm going to be talking about this a lot for the next month. And I'll be doing it on my personal page as well as my astrology page. But also, I have a group called Anatomy of Psyche, Scorpio, so you can join if you'd like. And this is really about navigating our own Scorpio consciousness, individually and collectively, and the planetary guides to Scorpio, which is Mars and Pluto, as well as the 8th house. So this is a platform in which you can join and actually explore your own chart. You know, where is Scorpio in your chart? What house is it in? What sign is in your 8th house? This is helpful to know so that you can really understand your own Scorpio consciousness, your own 8th house in your own psyche. And working with Mars and Pluto in your own chart and how they're relating to each other in your chart. This can be so helpful in really harnessing our own power. And again, as I said, it's all of these things in our psyche, Mars, Pluto, Scorpio, 8th house, that actually contains not only our fears, but our true empowerment and how to act. I want to say keys to harnessing our true empowerment and our soul evolution, because ultimately we are here to evolve on a soul level. And in some ways, I think of Scorpio as soul retrieval, because it is about, wherever you have Pluto in your chart is really about where you're actually going in this life and retrieving aspects of your soul. Soul empowerment. So it's really exploring where it is we give away our power, where it is we've felt losses of power, and how we can transmute that into more soul awareness, awakening to our own soul, and also our empowerment. It's such a deep and beautiful part of our psyche, and I absolutely love exploring this, and I really love supporting people in harnessing their power. And just because it is the whole reason that we incarnate is to harness our own empowerment. And I mean true empowerment. So whenever we have things that we have actually repressed and that we haven't had the courage to look at within our own psyche, this is where these things can come out unconsciously, and they seep out of consciousness unconsciously, and where we can actually not only experience abuses of power, so others having power over us and wielding power over us, but also places that we may unconsciously wield power over others. But when we're truly empowered, we know our power comes from within. We know our power comes from looking at our vulnerabilities, our fears, our values, and truly knowing and accessing our soul, knowing that we are here to be empowered, to live our desires, to evolve, to merge and marry the soul and the ego. So it is through our ego that our soul expression comes through, and we self-actualize and embody our soul. I love this. I love supporting people in navigating this in their natal charts and through transits. And I'm really excited for Anatomy of Psyche Scorpio. This is my first time to do Anatomy of Psyche Scorpio series. If you've been following me, you know I've been doing this since Aries, and I open a group for each archetype. So Aries, I started with Aries, its planetary guide Mars in the first house, and we've been exploring all the way up until now. And I am opening Anatomy of Psyche Scorpio today. So if you want to join, let me know. Okay, so And because I'm going to actually share this recording on YouTube as well, if you want to join, if you're seeing me on YouTube, this Anatomy of Psyche series is on Facebook. So you can find me on Facebook. Message me if you want to join. Okay, so I have been shuffling for quite a while. As we've been talking about Scorpio, I love that. I'm going to shuffle one more time. And I'm going to pick a card for collective contemplation as we navigate the sun moving through Scorpio and shining the light on our Scorpio consciousness, individually and collectively. Wow. So if you've been following me, you know we've gotten this card before, and I think that this is quite appropriate for Scorpio. So the card is Femme Fatale. Femme Fatale. So the light attributes here highlights the erotic energy of the feminine. Opens your heart when your dependency is rejected. This is beautiful because Scorpio is a yin energy, so it's consciousness moving inward, which is feminine, right? And the feminine energy is actually where we receive. And so, you know, the feminine aspect of our being is receiving. It is, you know, allowing, and also it is going within and finding inner power rather than looking for power in the outside world. Scorpio is all about I would say exercises, learning about true power. And this is why we can experience losses of power as well as abuses of power, because it is really learning what true empowerment is. And when we have had losses of power, we then go on this journey of finding where it is we're giving our power away and how we've lost power. But also through that exploration, we've gained a strengthening of our own access to our own power. And when we've experienced, or we've even experienced ourselves wielding power over others, we typically learn ultimately that is, you know, obviously an abuse of power, but it also is self-abuse. So when we have abuses of power over others, or wielding our power over others in a harmful way, we're actually abusing ourselves. So the thing about Scorpio is that it is the part of our consciousness that actually regenerates energy. And so when we learn how to actually harness our own power, and by that I mean true empowerment, where we not only empower ourselves and harness our own power, but we actually empower others, then we regenerate energy. And not only do we regenerate our own energy, we actually, it's not just regenerating energy within, it's actually regenerating energy in our bodies. This is how we move. When we are moving energy in our body has the energy to actually replenish itself, to regenerate energy, to regenerate the body, regenerate the cells in the body, the cellular makeup, right? And so understanding our own empowerment is so huge in our own health and the health of our bodies. Scorpio in the natural zodiac opposes Taurus. And Taurus and Venus, now Venus is the guide to Taurus, it's the inner side of Venus. So this is about our inner vibration. And Taurus is about the body. It's about our greatest resource, which is our body, right? And so when we really understand how to harness our own power, we understand how to regenerate our body. And so now, because Scorpio is about our primal instincts, so first and foremost, our primal instinct is to survive, right? So typically when we've lost power or we've actually abused power, it's because it's coming from an idea, something linked to survival. So we think we have to do this, we have to give over our power, or we have to abuse our power or use our power in an abusive way, or have power over others because we think that that is our only way to survive. But it's coming from a place of lack of trust. It's coming from a place of lack, right? It's not coming from our soul. And we know, if we're tapped into our soul, we know that we are harnessing our own power. And we know that we are living in an abundant universe. And that as we regenerate our own energy and we actually empower ourselves and empower others, that inner vibration attracts powerful people that are empowered, and resources that actually enhance our empowerment, enhance our thriving, which is a Taurus energy. So it also enhances our creativity. And what is the erotic but our creativity? Our deepest creativity is the capacity to actually create another being, right? Like the creative life force actually creates another being. Our sexuality actually creates another being, right? It creates babies. But it's also not just about creating babies. It's also about creating in the outside world from our soul expression, right? And that is an erotic energy. Our creativity is erotic, right? And it's also a language. So when she says, highlights the erotic energy of the feminine, this is because the feminine is what creates. So all of us have the feminine archetype within us, whether we're male or female or however, whatever gender we really connect with and identify with. So this is, the erotic energy is the feminine part of ourselves, right? And she says, opens your heart when your dependency is rejected. So this is the thing, is that, you know, she's talking about dependency. So when we are depending on other people, we're not truly harnessing our own empowerment, right? And so I think that, you know, I think what she's talking about is really accessing our own self-actualization with our own empowerment. This so reminds me of the fact that Scorpio and Taurus are fixed signs, and they are what's part of a fixed grand cross in the sky or in our charts, with Leo and Aquarius. And Leo is the ego. Leo is ruled by the sun, so this is how we self-actualize our self-love. And so, you know, Leo is also has to do with the heart. So how we actually self-actualize our self-love is how we actually open our hearts, how we actually bring our heart expression, right? We self-actualize that. So our ego will express that. So it is about really bringing our soul through the ego expression, through the heart, right? And through our feeling. I mean, Scorpio is so much about emotion and feeling as well. It's a water sign. And it's really, you know, in navigating Scorpio, we have to have a very deep resolve to feel from our heart space, to feel the pain that we've all gone through, to feel what it feels like to have lost our power somewhere in our life, and to feel when maybe we've inappropriately wielded our power and the pain that comes with that as well. We feel through our heart, right? And so, you know, I think that one of the shadow aspects of Scorpio can be codependency, because it is where we share our resources with intimate bonds, whether that's close friends or it's our lovers or our significant others in some way, or family members. And if there's codependency, meaning we're relying on others to give to us, which is a Taurus Venus theme, then we can have that reflection of the dependency, and we can have that rejection, right? And yeah, this is also a place to actually open our hearts and really realize that it's through our own self-actualization that we harness our power. It's through our own self-actualization that we actually, by our inner vibration, attract resources to us and everything that we need to us. So that's how I interpret this. I know that it's likely I'll walk away from this sharing and actually have different, even in more depth of how I would interpret that. But I would love to hear how you interpret it, because it always makes the conversation more rich for everyone. So if you have comments or insights about these light attributes, I'd love to hear. And remember that the light attributes of any archetype is really about what is it that actually expands and regenerates energy in that archetype or that archetypal energy. What expands consciousness? And any of the shadow attributes is going to be something that debilitates consciousness. It represses consciousness. It actually inhibits consciousness from expanding. So the shadow attributes are inappropriate use of sensuality, attachment to money and power. So, you know, inappropriate use of sensuality, we know that has been very much a piece in our exploration of consciousness, where sensuality has been used to manipulate and exploit and, you know, exploit for personal gain rather than mutual benefit. If we've done our work through Libra, we have understood how to navigate relationships where there's an equal giving and receiving, and that we learn how to actually generate energy because it's mutually beneficial. Both people are giving, both people are receiving, and both people are being accountable for their own contributions and relationships and relating, right? Whether that's positive or that's something that has been of shadow, right? So when we get to Scorpio is then when we have earned that intimacy with others, where we've already established that there is accountability in relationships, and there is actually an equal giving and receiving, and a trust of being able to be intimate and sharing our feelings with each other, right? And so the thing about this inappropriate use of sensuality is that it can be where sensuality is used to exploit for personal gain, right? Rather than mutual, appreciation of being in a body. I mean, sensuality is so much about Taurus and being in a body and loving our bodies, honoring our bodies, and enjoying our senses. Taurus is very much related to the senses. And so enjoying our sensuality together. And it doesn't mean that we have to like enjoy our sensuality necessarily physically together, but just enjoying sensuality. And so that would be healthy, right? To love ourselves and our bodies, because our bodies are earth, and it's earth. It's enjoying and appreciating the earth in which we live, right? In which we get to evolve our souls through this vehicle of our body, and enjoying the senses, because the senses inform us of that, right? But if we use that to actually have personal gain, it can actually be a misuse of our power, because we know that our sensuality is powerful. And so it is really meant to be honored and respected, loved and shared in a way that is mutually beneficial, and through the enjoyment, through appreciation, right? No, she says attachment to money and power. Well, we know, I mean, if there's attachment to money and power, it's likely going to be an unconscious gripping onto power, an unconscious gripping onto money and resources, which is actually when we can unconsciously take from others, which is an abuse of power. And so in Scorpio, this can be, well, where, are there places where others are taking from us because they are not equally fueling us, right? So there isn't this mutual benefit. There isn't an equal giving and receiving, right? And so if there isn't an equal giving and receiving, then, little by little, we're actually, if we're not receiving as much as we're giving, then we're actually creating a pattern in relationship with anyone that would be ultimately an abuse of power, that would ultimately be not mutually beneficial and not regenerating energy, which is actually, it would be like actually taking someone else's life force energy, right? It would be like vampirism. That's why vampires are so much related to Scorpio and Scorpio season. And so vampirism can be like when you have an imbalance in relationship and one person is taking all the time and depleting another person because they're not giving back. And so there isn't this regenerating of energy. And also an equal empowerment where we're both giving and receiving, and we're both equally empowering each other. We're actually equally supporting each other. We're supporting ourselves, and we're also supporting another person. Another person is supporting themselves, and they're also supporting us. This is how we actually increase true empowerment on the planet. So I think this is a wonderful card for Scorpio energy. I will go into what she says in the book and then see if there's any added insights that could be helpful. And then I want to wrap it up because I know this one's been a little bit long. Okay, so Femme Fatale, Black Widow, Flirt, Siren, Circe, Seductress, Enchantment, Enchantress. Represents highly refined skills at manipulating men, both sexually and financially, without investing personal emotion. So this is the feminine consciousness, but I think, men can have it too, where it's like using seduction to take from another person. We've all seen it. If you're living on the planet now, you've seen it, right? So sometimes adds the twist of symbolically killing her conquest. This is the Black Widow, right? So this is where it's like you're taking energy from someone else. Like you're actually harming someone else. This is the it's why she says symbolic, right? Where it's like this could also be, I think, like ghosting someone, kind of like, using seduction to get, to lure someone in, and then and then just using someone, whether it's sexually or it's financially or in power or whatever they can give you without giving back, right? And so you're depleting someone else. You're depleting, you're taking from them, taking what they have to share, but you're not giving back. I've seen this in so many different ways. I've seen it like even on Facebook, where people take people's ideas and they don't actually honor the person that shared it, right? They don't give a comment, or they don't, give them a heart or a like or whatever, it's like kind of like taking and extracting energy without giving appreciation. And so, but this happens, on all dimensions, right? Emotionally, psychically, mentally, physically. And so like sexually, physically, sexually, right? It would be like luring someone in and taking their sexuality. It's like rape, right? And, or just taking their sexuality consensually, giving the impression of, so much more from the relationship, and then, ghosting somebody. So that's what I was referring to earlier. But all of these aspects can happen on the physical dimension, emotional dimension, the mental dimension, the psychic dimension, right? Spiritual dimension. So positive aspect manifests as opening the heart when the male object rejects her manipulations and dependency. So male, so when the yang energy, yang being Mars, Scorpio. So Pluto is the feminine aspect of Scorpio. Mars is the masculine aspect of Scorpio. So Mars would be like, okay, I'm not feeding that anymore. I'm pulling back. I'm pulling back giving. Mars and the masculine energy is all about giving. So over giving in relationship is actually a Mars energy. Masculine energy is meant to give. Feminine energy is meant to receive. And so if we find that we're in a relating dynamic or a relationship where we're over giving, which is our masculine nature, and someone is taking, right, which is a distorted Venusian energy or distorted feminine energy, right, then when we pull back from that over-giving, we pull back from giving, so we pull back the male energy, right? This is rejecting manipulation, and it's rejecting codependency. It's rejecting dependency, which is actually an act of love. Because when we actually do not feed and balance in relationships, it is actually an act of love to pull back so that the other person has to actually activate their own Venusian energy and actually really go inward into their own vibration so that they can attract what they need in order to really attract their own true empowerment rather than taking from others, right? So the shadow femme fatale wants only to acquire more men and more money. So yeah, when is enough, right? So shadow femme fatale wants only to acquire more men and more money. So this can be from the male, or the female. Like, I want to attract the opposite sex. I want to attract all these lovers, because it makes me feel powerful. But this is actually an abuse of power, and it's actually exploiting other people, and it's actually not true empowerment. Because when we're truly empowered, we don't need excess so much. I mean, we can, when we receive excess, then we have more to share. So there can be that. There can be just being able to hold more power, hold more energy so that we can share more out in the world. It depends on how you work with the energy, right? So look for a pattern of manipulative behavior and how do you say this? Acquisitiveness. So it's like acquiring things, right? So look for a pattern of manipulative behavior and acquisitiveness. So this is the thing. Scorpio, the time of Scorpio, and whenever any planet's in Scorpio, but when the sun's in Scorpio, it's shining the light on all of these dynamics, right? It's giving us the opportunity to shine the light in those dark places so that we can actually harness our true soul and our true empowerment. And this is the thing, when we do not actually go deep into our psyches, into our unconscious, into the pain, into the wounds, into the things that have been repressed, into the unconscious, and face these things about ourselves where we give our power away, where we feed relationships that are imbalanced, where we, wield power over another in an exploitive way. When we don't look at those things, then we are actually we aren't able to harness our true empowerment, and we're here to harness our true empowerment. And whenever we have true empowerment, we do want to have a balance in our relationships. We want to have not only empowering relationships, so an empowering relationship with ourselves, where we've accessed our true empowerment and our willingness to face the places where we may have been giving our power away, or we may have been abusing power in some way, right? Going into the wounds that would actually make that a thing in our lives. Because it's actually people that abuse power or give their power away are people that are wounded. And that, hey, we've all been wounded. This is why we have to do our shadow work all the time, so that we can actually really deepen our true empowerment and minimize our projections in relationships and minimize abuses of power, losses of power, and actually really get to our soul, really get to actually bringing that soul and the evolution on an individual level on the earth plane and embody that so that we can be an empowering being, not only for ourselves, but in the world. So I'm really excited about this. I love that this is the card that came up. If you have any insights, again, please do share. I would love to hear. And let me know if you want to join Anatomy of Psyche Scorpio. I'm really excited about this month, so I would love to have you join if you feel inclined. And happy Scorpio season. I wish for all of us to find our true empowerment. As you know, probably, if you've been following me, the nodes of the moon are going to be transitioning into Taurus and Scorpio on January 19th of 2022. This is going to be an 18-month, a year and a half process where all of us individually and collectively get to actually really look at these parts of our consciousness, the Scorpio dimension in our consciousness, the Taurus dimension in our consciousness, in order to actually truly embody our empowerment. This is such an exciting time. I'm really excited about it. I'm also going to be opening a free group on Facebook, which is called The Labyrinth Journey Through the Eclipses. I'd like to build a community where we're supporting each other through the eclipse seasons. I'm going to do free lives in there, just hop on, share astrological information, share anything that I think that could be helpful to people really navigating the eclipse energies. And, we have different eclipse seasons based on where the nodes of the moon are. So the first year and a half of this group is going to be all about Taurus and Scorpio, right? So if you'd like to join, let me know. I'd love to have you as a part of this community. It's going to be a place where all of us can post things. We can explore this together. And as you know, if you've been following me, I really, really value what other people experience and their perceptions and their, journey through these specific aspects of the psyche. We all have something to contribute. We've all journeyed through these dimensions within ourselves and our own experience. And so we all can really shine the light on this part of our psyche and actually help build each other up in our empowerment through navigating eclipses and eclipse season, and really supporting each other to go within and do our shadow work. Eclipse season is all about doing our shadow work. And this is so that we can be empowered. This is so that emotionally we're evolving, that we're actually increasing our emotional intelligence, that we're actually able to show up in a very emotionally intelligent way. And so my hope is to actually support people, to create this platform to support people. So I'd love to have you there. I'd love to, have you share and have you receive. And so let me know if you'd like to join. Thanks so much for watching if you've gotten this far. I know this has been a long share. And thanks to everyone who's hopped on. I wish you your true empowerment and a happy Scorpio season and deep Scorpio season, a lovely Scorpio season. And if you've been following me, I will be back tomorrow. Thank you, Jeff. Thanks for hopping on.